How's it going, dudes? So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. So a little while back, a friend of mine found out that I used to be into collecting designer toys. And he had asked me a couple questions about them, so I decided instead just to do a little bit of a video maybe for other people that would also be interested in this sort of thing. Now let me also give a little bit of a fair warning. I was into this a long time ago. Just to give you an example, I found one of these the other day. So if you can see the date on that bear brick right there, that's Series 12. That's back from 2006. So yeah, I've been in it for a while, but I also haven't been in it for a long time. So if I get any of this information wrong, or if I talk about some companies that are now defunct, I apologize. I'm just telling you what I know and my opinion on some of this stuff. So let's start off with the basics. What is a designer toy? So basically what a designer toy is, it's not meant to be played with. It's more of what I would consider it is a three-dimensional piece of art, something that someone has taken time to draw out, create, and then basically build, usually out of either one of two different types of materials, either PVC or vinyl. Now, both have their pros and cons. For example, vinyl, so something like this guy right here, they tend to have a little bit more detail and they tend to feel a little bit better. However, these ones are super reactant to heat. So if you live like in a hot place, they actually can melt, which is kind of a problem. They tend to lean after a while, which is not good by any means. Now, PVC on the other hand, like the bear brick I had earlier, these guys, they do feel nice still, and they do tend to hold up better as well too, but they just don't get the same kind of detailing that the vinyls have. Who out there still remembers 12 bar? Now also, before I get any further into this tends to be a little bit of a rabbit hole, like it's gonna go deep. So I'm gonna separate it into a couple different parts, and it's probably gonna end up being a couple different videos. As far as how I'm gonna break it down, I'm gonna break it down into two separate categories. The guys that are designers from the West, aka North America and Europe, and then the guys that are designing from the East, mainly Japan, and then Hong Kong and China. And then lastly, I'm going to also divide it into two other categories, and that's franchise toys and then pure designer toys. Franchise toys being like this, stuff from series that people know, that people see on TV or from video games, stuff like that. And then designer toys, which are literally stuff that somebody created artistically solely for the purpose of being a toy or a statuette. So this first video is going to be solely based on designer toys, the ones that people create artistically in 3 dimensions. Oh, also, real quick side note. A lot of the individual designers I'm going to be talking about, as well as the actual companies, they have also intermingled a lot over these last couple years, and well, forever really. So I'm going to try and make it as not confusing as possible, but at the same time, if you get lost, I can try and help you discuss that like later on in the comments. But for the time being, just try to hang on as best you can. Alright, so let's start with the West first, and obviously the biggest designer in the West is Kidrobot. Sorry, I don't have any visuals. I don't own any Kidrobot. So Kidrobot came to prominence like about a little over a decade ago, and they're really well known for a lot of their franchise stuff, honestly, such as their Street Fighter, or their Family Guy, or their Simpsons stuff, but we're not really going to talk about that too much. What they're really known for, aside from that, is their dunnies and their monies. And if you notice too, a lot of those come blank, and it's up to you or whoever decides to buy them to design them themselves or paint them themselves. And it's a really good entry-level point if you want to get into just seeing product visually and even trying your hand at doing customizations. And actually, let me just pause for a brief second and explain kind of one of the reasons why I enjoy collecting these toys so much. Now, going back a long time, one of the main things that got me into streetwear and toy collecting and all that in general was just enjoying art as first and foremost. And when it comes to a lot of the artists that you see on the back wall back there, especially guys like him right there, Takashi Murakami, like his stuff gets insanely expensive. So when we're talking about art like that, that's literally in the $1 million price range, and even some of his prints are in the thousands of dollars. Honestly, I think the cheapest I've ever seen one of his prints go for is $4,000. When you're thinking about it like that, and you can get a toy of his for about $300 to $400, that's kind of why I collect what I collect. It's either that, or a skate deck, or a t-shirt, which, I mean, as you can kind of see back there, that's what I do. So that brings me to the next couple toy artists. First and foremost, probably the most popular, Ron English. Now, Ron was obviously an artist first and foremost, but he's definitely taken a lot of his designs, like MC Supersize and Captain Cornstarch and Kid Hulk and even all the grins that he's done, and made all those into the toys, and those are all super available right now, but they are a little bit expensive, but once again, nowhere near as expensive as the actual paintings themselves. And of course, I have to bring up Parra too, who's done all of the different types of birds, like the Take a Rest bird or the Sad bird, and then also his other things like his tomato lamp, which are also super cool and also pretty easy to come by if you have the money for them. But even after all these companies, when it comes down to it, far and above, my favorite toy company out of the West is Coarse Toys. Like, ever since they've done their original False Friends, however many years ago it was, like, ever since then I've been hooked on every single thing they've ever done. Like Jaws and Permanent Guest and Do Not Disturb, like, everything they've done is just so incredibly well crafted. And it even shows because they've just won so many awards from so many different expos over the years, and they just keep producing gold. It's just so fucking amazing what they can do. So if I had one brand out of the West that I'd say look out for, it'd definitely be Coarse, but just know their stuff sells super fast and it's super expensive. So you gotta have like the money like then and there, otherwise chances of getting it are pretty much nil. Alright, so with that, I think we're ready to move on to the East now. Now, when it comes to toy collecting in the East, especially as I said, Japan, Hong Kong, China, it's a whole different ballgame. Toy collecting out there has always been strong, and it continues to stay strong, and they have a lot of stuff out there that I can't cover because, first and foremost, a lot of it you just can't find here in the States, and mainly because people out here don't buy as much as they used to or at all, but also because the market out there is just so strong. So I'm only really going to be covering stuff that is easily accessible in the States, and once again, more of the well-known stuff. If you want to, as I said before, dive down this rabbit hole, there's so much information out there online that you can find. And I'm going to link a couple places in the description as well to make it easier if you find yourself interested in this sort of thing. Alright, so first and foremost, Medicom. Now, Medicom is obviously known for mainly three different things. The first being Bear Bricks, the second being Kubricks, and then finally Real Action Heroes, but we'll talk more about Real Action Heroes in the franchised video. Also, on an artist's front, they're also really well known for doing all the cause stuff and the original fake line, so like that up there. All that stuff, even to this day, even though Original Fake no longer exists as a clothing brand, they still do all the companions and the chums and everything like that with it. Now, next is also one of my probably favorite companies ever, and that's Mindstyle. And Mindstyle is known for mainly, but not limited to, their Godfather figures, the Manny Pacquiao Mickey figure they did years and years ago, and a lot of their work with Cool Rain and all the basketball players you've probably seen but didn't know who they were from. Designed by Cool Rain, made by Mindstyle. Also, speaking of my favorite companies, I have to, of course, talk about 3A. Now, 3A makes some actually pretty decently priced figurines for their size and their quality, and they are definitely the go-tos if you're looking for something in the cyberpunk genre, and honestly, in my opinion, they make some of the best purely aesthetic-looking figures. Like, they're just so clean and so nice to look at. Definitely a good starter brand as well. And then lastly, before I get into the final two figures, I just want to go over a couple just rapid fire companies really quick. And I'm not going to talk much about them here, but if you want to learn more about them, once again, I'll link some stuff in the description to kind of give you some more ideas of what they make and kind of the backgrounds they have. So if you've kind of liked the things that I've talked about so far, especially more the Western stuff, I definitely recommend looking into Wonderwall, Toy2R, and Secret Base. Those companies definitely make some of the more popular things right now, and they're easily collectible, and some of them, as I said before, can be customized, especially like the keys, I think they're called or pronounced. The keys from Toy2R, they are a lot like the monies and dunnies that I talked about at the very beginning of the video, especially if you want to customize something. Alright, so the last two companies. The first one is by far my favorite company of all time, even though they're not really known, at least in the States, for this sort of thing, and that's Bounty Hunter back there. Now, in the US, there's only like 1 or 2 places that sell Bounty Hunter, and most of it's the apparel. But if you learn about the company a little bit, you'll know that like even on like their t-shirts, so like you probably recognize this logo if you're aware of the brand, but even on their t-shirts, let's see here if I can find it. So on their t-shirts, they all have a tag like that right there on the sleeve. And if you flip it over, if you can't read that, it says all their toys suck. And that kind of gives you an idea of what the brand is about. So, as I said, even if they're known for their apparel out here, they started first and foremost as a toy company specializing in vinyl toys. And if you look at their history, they've helped pave the way for a lot of people in this industry. Just to go over a couple of them, they did one of the first King Kens with James Jarvis. They did one of the first Labbits with Frank Kozik. They did one of the first Companions with Cause. And they also did Kid Hunter with Skate Thing, who ended up becoming the creative designer at BBC, who is now the creative designer at Kems. But honestly, the favorite figures that they've done that I personally like are, they did a Mickey years and years ago that you can't find anymore, and of course their Skullcoon figure, which is kind of their staple. So as I said before, companies always been based out of Japan, will always be based out of Japan, and because of that, their toys are only really available in Japan. So you can try and find them. They're not super hard to find, but because of the fact that they're only in Japan, they're super, super expensive. And then of course, last and not least, you cannot make a designer toy video without mentioning the god himself, Michael Lau. All of his basketball figures, all of his work with Mindstyle, all of his Gardner figures, his Nike figures, which are the figures that got me into him in the first place. Like, usually when it comes to most toy designers, you can tell that they made it based on just how it looks, the style of the figure. But when it comes to Michael Lau, he's done so many different styles and so many different figures. He's done more for the toy game than most companies ever have and ever will do. He's just a genius, and if you can get one of his toys, I highly recommend it. It's something I've always wanted and something that I will eventually get, along with a Coarse Toy or two, and of course a Bounty Hunter toy. So yeah, I think that's the gist of it. Once again, if you want to know more about this stuff and kind of want to read up on it on yourself, I put some links in the description, and then also go online and look at certain toy sites too. Toy Art Gallery is amazing, Rotofugi is amazing, Bait is a decent place to start, so I'll link those as well too. But honestly, if you're into this stuff or you've gotten the itch after watching this video, welcome. It's expensive, but welcome. Alright, you guys have a good day. Until next time.